All righty, everybody. So we are going to move along here. I'm going to my little, there we are. Our next bar that's going to be coming to the screen. The next bar coming to the screen.
Habit, girl.
Coming to the screen, it's a habit, is The Edge. And we're going to be meeting Rob, and Michael. I refuse to mess up y'all's
baby, that part. That's why I said, let them introduce themselves.
Right. So, yes. So they're coming to our screens very shortly. Rob, and Michael. Hi guys.
Hello. Hello.
Hello. It's nice to see you all. So, did you hear I'm going to go over what we're doing again, and those out in audience land, I'm doing it 4 times just because sometimes the bars are in the Zoom room, so they can't hear what's going on the Twitch, but sometimes they can. So what we're doing is we're having these conversations. Militia's going to go with you guys over the data that was collected. Right. And then you guys are going to have a conversation. She's going to ask you a few questions, and then we're going to do some face-to-face conversations with people from the community. They might be former employees, maybe community members, whomever, who may or may not feel like they've had an issue with the bar. And then we'll have a restorative justice moment at that time. And then if time permits, then we will take more questions from the audience. Is that okay with you guys? Okay, great. So Militia, take it away. Oh, absolutely. That's our pleasure. Well, first of all, thank you for coming, because I know that when we have courageous conversations like this, they don't always feel great in the beginning, but I think we come out of it as better people and a better community.
Yeah, and we just want to say we reviewed the data that you sent, and it was very humbling. So we're definitely here to listen and see how we can begin to improve. So we're
awesome. Thank you. All right, Melissa, that's all yours.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to go over the results of the survey really quickly with you. And just going to jump right into it. Yeah, here we go. Okay. So for the inclusivity rating, out of the 320 respondents, 82 respondents gave the Edge a score of inclusive or very inclusive, while 108 gave the Edge a score of very exclusive or exclusive. So on a scale of 1 to 4, your average total came out to 1.8. And then in terms of safety, with 4 being the best, 1 being the lowest. In terms of safety, of the 306 respondents, 93 respondents gave the Edge a score of safe or very safe, while 68 gave the Edge a score of very unsafe or unsafe, and that rounded your average out to 2.1 out of 4. And in the overall rankings, there are 27 bars. There's a lot of ties, but yours came up 23rd on the list from best to most work. So with that said, I'm going to go over the general summary of the written responses that people came up with. There were some running themes, so we're going to tell all the bars that in hopes that whether it applies or it doesn't, you can find something to work on moving forward. Yes? Okay. So the survey showed that many participants felt like most nightlife spaces prioritized and centered cis white gay men over other patrons. It also showed that women and femmes, Black and Indigenous folk, and trans and non-binary folk did not feel safe or included in most nightlife spaces, and that many of those participants felt there was a lack of representation in staffing and management on stage and in marketing. The Edge specifically was mentioned with the keywords exclusion of women twice, as well as the keywords anti-Blackness and transphobia. Lack of employment was also mentioned with the keywords anti-Blackness, as well as colorism in the booking of the go-go performers. Michael and Eric Lopez were also specifically mentioned as a source of a negative experience at the Edge. These issues altogether throughout all the surveys came up almost 100 times. That's not just pertaining to you. But the survey also showed that many nightlife spaces struggled to manage a culture of touching without consent. And instances of sexual harassment, assault, and inappropriate touching and groping came up over 30 times over the collected information. Predatory patrons at the edge were also mentioned twice in the written responses. So with that, also the survey showed that there was a substance-heavy environment that gave a lack of options or programming to sober patrons and made them feel either unsafe or excluded. So with that, I'm going to go and start with the questions that we are asking all the bars, just as a general get to know you moment. Yeah? So question 1, does the Edge offer, does the bar currently, or did it pre-COVID, offer any specifically Black-centered regular events?
No.
No. Okay. Did it offer any?
I kind of wanted to add, we did work with Strut in their Dream program, where we supplied them with tokens and we had receptions for them afterwards. And it was something that happened a couple times a year, usually on Sunday afternoons. It was actually a really fun event. It's an awesome event.
And that was specifically Black-centered?
Yeah, the Dream program is a program through Strut about encouraging HIV and STI testing amongst African-American men.
Okay. And how many times a year was that?
I worked with Jared. I think we did it 4 times over the course of 2 years.
Okay.
Perfect.
Perfect. All right. And then did it offer any lesbian or femme-centered programming regularly?
Not regularly, no.
All right. Any trans programming regularly?
Not regularly, but our Saturday night party, that's once a month for Fetish, those were both featured with Eric Lopez's night code. Femme and trans.
Trans people were featured?
Yes. They were, we had a fetish, like it's a leather night and it was dedicated to them 1 month a year.
1 month
a year. Okay.
Okay. And then any POC programming regularly?
Not currently. We have in the past for sure.
Got you. Like this year, the past?
Not this year. This year, the beginning of it was very short before we had to stop all the programming.
Okay. And then we're going to move on to the next question then. Are there any Black people in positions of management?
We have 4 owners, of which Michael is one of them, and Michael is the only manager. He's the general manager, but we don't have any managers, no.
Got you. So with that, we can go no Black people, no POC, trans or female people in positions of management.
Correct. There is not, no.
Perfect. We're going to move on to the next question then. On the suggestion of inclusion of sober patrons, is there a non-alcoholic mocktail type menu available for them?
We actually don't have any menu whatsoever, but it's a reasonable suggestion for sure.
Cute.
It's a great suggestion. We do carry lots of non-alcoholic things. Ginger beer tends to go out a lot, but we do not have a specific menu, no.
Okay. And then does your bar offer Narcan training to its employees, or is that something that you have not done?
We have not done.
Is it something that you would be willing to look into?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, yeah.
Then perfect. And then I'm going to move on to that last general question then. And on the topic of consent, assault, and harassment, do you have a strict consent anti-harassment assault policy that is posted?
That's a good question. It's nothing's posted, but it's definitely something we review with our staff and an employee handbook, and we have a sign right in the front that about everyone is accepted and nothing about non-harassment though, but that's something we can definitely address.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of become like a thing I've noticed at some bars going as of late. Just, an absolute no policy that's posted. I think it does help maybe with just the patrons who are coming in, but just something to think about moving forward. Yes.
Understood.
Perfect. And with that, that sort of gets rid of the get to know you moment, and we're going to move on to Afrika. And
Right.
she's going to do the face-to-face interactions with you.
Please.
So before we do the face-to-face, I just want to make sure I'm clear that we've done in 2 years 4 Black-centered events, and we don't have any, and hold on, let me make sure I got it right. The gender binary or the non-binary gender party that was a part of Fetish was once a year?
It's a leather night. Yeah. That was twice a year.
Twice a year. Okay.
And once for trans. Yes.
Okay. Just want to make sure I don't want to misquote, because I know people, I'm getting questions and I'm like,
I want to make it clear, it's not fetishizing trans. It was a leather night that was supposed to be for trans people. That is continually.
Gotcha. Okay. So wasn't that was the thing. I was like, was this a fetish night for trans?
It's not. I misspoke. I apologize.
That's okay. That's why I asked the question, because I was confused. I was like, do I have to call them on this? I'm not sure, and I needed you to articulate that. And then
let me clarify.
Thank you. No worries. And then one of the things I need to ask you guys really quickly is why haven't you had those evenings, and what do you think going forward why you should have those evenings?
Good question why we haven't. I mean, our programming in general has been really what we felt initially coming into this before getting all this feedback it was broadly inclusive, but clearly it's not that way or perceived that way. I mean, 3 of the nights were a musicals bar, and that's what kind of pays our rent. And then for Friday and Saturday, it's a very generic offering, kind of trying to get the very broad based. And then Tuesday was a night we've been experimenting with a bunch of different recipes. And so I think there's definitely, given all the feedback and given reading the report, it's definitely room that we need to change. And so we have to figure out how we change.
Perfect. I will offer this up, and as I've been doing a lot of this work recently with a lot of different bars and consulting, is that people of color, specifically Black people of color, only see themselves in the nightlife community as bouncers, performative, possibly as a go-go, and most times not even that, and or the drag performers that you may or may not get, and it's 2 or 3 of the same drag performers all the time. Okay. So that is the essence of what's going around in the community, specifically Black and Indigenous people. I have been trying very, very hard to continue my work in this realm of bringing people together. And I want you all to just continue to think about that. And with that being said, we need to offer up our face-to-face folks to come on in and have their conversations on some restorative justice time. Our first person, I believe, is Eugene Bibs, BamBam. Easy, there he is. BamBam, turn off your mute. Your mute's on. There you go. BamBam, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I'm just trying to close out of the Twitch, so I'm not getting double feedback.
Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. And I believe everybody here.
Can you guys hear me?
I believe everybody here knows each other. So Rob and Michael know BamBam, and BamBam, I do believe. And BamBam, you are free to speak.
Okay. I wrote down a little note of what I experienced at the bar of the Edge. So my name is Eugene Bibs. Most people know me as BamBam. I used to bartend at the Edge. I was there for about 4.5 years. While at the Edge, I was called a nigger 3 times while working there. The first time I was there and I was called a nigger, I told my Caucasian coworker, and the first thing he told me was, "Are you sure?" As if I was confused, or he thought I was lying, or unsure. I shouldn't have expected him to understand or believe me. He was never and will never be called a nigger. I have text messages from a current employee who works there and says, quote, If we kicked every single customer out of the bar that treats us like that, we would have 5 left. It's a part of customer service to deal with the entitled, the loud, the angry, the Karens, Kyles, and Chads, unquote. I got "you're hot" or "you're attractive" for a black man so many times while working there. I would request songs to the DJ, the VJ, and be denied to them my music, be denied to them for playing my music because it sounded aggressive to them. There was a night where we served dollar cocktails and turned it into a trivia night. We played music of all sorts and all kinds, but it was mostly R&B and hip hop. They canceled the event and said it wasn't bringing enough business. Could be true, but the place was packed and people came in to hang out, listen to music, and play trivia. I personally think that they canceled the event because they didn't cater to the clientele that they wanted in the bar. There's also a coworker or employee that works there that shows up 15, 30 minutes, even an hour late sometimes. He'd come to work for an hour or so, and then he would need a 15 or 30-minute break. These issues were constantly brought up to the owners and managers, but nothing ever happened. I showed up to work every time, busted my ass while there. I wasn't a perfect employee, but I did try. This coworker also showed up aggressively high on a substance that not quite sure of, to almost every shift. He was pretty lazy and nothing ever happened to him. He got a lot of leeway. I got suspended for smoking pot. I wonder if I showed up 30 minutes late and was constantly high on some other substances, marijuana, how long I would have been employed there. That's all I have to say.
Wow. Gentlemen? The Robs?
I want to say, Bam, your feelings are completely valid, and I apologize for that. I know that I definitely, as in your words, went to bat for you many times and would do it a million times more. And I apologize for the things that were said to you by customers. It's not okay. And I will work to fix that to make sure that none of that is ever tolerated. I have 86, a bunch of people that were not okay to you, and I'll do them a million times more.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Absolutely.
Okay. Bam, question. How are you feeling at this moment?
I don't really like talking because I don't feel like I have the words, so I have to write it down beforehand. It makes me feel uncomfortable because when I try to talk about my feelings, I've always been told that I'm just being sensitive. And it's a little hard because not a lot of people understand, not a lot of people understand what it's like dealing with racism in the Castro as a black man. It's just, it's indescribable how, people can sit there and talk to you and, say, oh, you're hot and you're attractive. And then next, you're being called a nigger. And it's just like, what the fuck? Like, it's just tough. And I try to smile and I try to laugh it off and have fun. And I try to do my best, and I'm not perfect. I'm far from perfect. And yeah.
No, it's good. I mean, we need to know these things. This is what this conversation is about. This is why the bars have shown up. This is why we need you to show your truth, share your truth. And you know what? Be sensitive. It's okay, because sensitive people are the ones who move the world. So be sensitive. I appreciate your sensitivity. Do you feel like you need to hear anything else from them, BamBam?
No, I just want them to. I just want y'all to be a little more open-minded, and I don't know. So I want y'all to be open-minded, and not everyone is not everyone has an attitude or trying to be mean and evil. I love bartending. I've always have. I always wanted to be a bartender, and it's something I'm very passionate about. And I try to, yeah. I'm sorry.
No, don't be sorry. Take your time.
I just want you guys to be open-minded and just be open-minded. Listen to people.
I
I understand that it's business, and got to make the dollar, and you got to, I understand that part of it, but just want you guys to be more open-minded.
Well, it was incredibly painful to hear what you had to say. I didn't know many of those things that you brought up, and I'm sorry for your experience. It pains me, and we have to figure out how to do better and jump on that more quickly when those incidents happen. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, BamBam. Do you have anything else to say? Are you good for the moment?
I'm good. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you.
And I stay for the moment because we are always not always good. You know what I'm saying? I got you.
We're not. So
we're not. I got you.
But we try. We try.
Good.
I appreciate
you.
Thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you, Bam. Have a good night.
Take care.
So guys, on BamBam's conversation, he brought up that there were employees that said specific things to him, which are, whew. And I know that in the state of California, we have to do trainings on bias and harassment and things like that. So I'm gonna need you all to take what he said very seriously, and I'm gonna need you to wrap around that with all of your staff to get on top of your harassment issues, because you've created a hostile work environment for someone in not addressing it. And does that make sense? So you got to address that. The next person supposed to be up is you, Sacred Mitchell. Is he in the room? I'm going to find out if he's in the Zoom room. If he's not, we'll go to our next person for the Edge. All right, is that Monty? There you go. Hi.
Hi.
I saw the mouth. I saw the wave in the mouth. Like, yeah, we can't hear you. Can't hear you. All righty. So Monty, the time is yours. Go ahead.
Wonderful. I want to start off by saying hello, good evening, and thank you for having me. My name is Ruben, and I am a queer Latinx non-binary drag performer who goes by the stage name of Monty. I am a Bay Area native, and I've been performing for close to 4 years. And I come to you today to share my experience with the Monster Show, which takes place at the Edge in the Castro. Laundra Chime was the host during this time in particular, and I had walked away that evening feeling very unwelcomed due to the lack of transparency over payout and failure to compensate me for my time, effort, and art. Upon my booking, Laundra had failed to mention that I was booked for a tip spot for new performers. And it struck me as odd how the hierarchy had worked all of a sudden, because a year prior, I had also been booked as a new performer and was told that I had to work my way up in order to obtain a paid spot on the show. Be as it is, if I had been informed prior that I was booked for a new performer spot, I would have declined the booking, because as a queer Latinx member of the community, I believe that my time, effort, and art should be valued and respected, because it takes money to survive in the SF drag scene. The lack of transparency waited until the very end of the night, and it left me feeling very ripped off and as if I wasn't valued or deserving enough to be paid out by the Monster Show. In addition to that, the lack of Latinx representation in their themes have always made me feel as if you don't do a white artist that isn't marketable, then that's not going to work for our demographic. And that's not to mention the most recent Latinx theme night, which also had a very sparse Latinx representation within the cast. My question to you is, what steps can and will be taken to show your support and solidarity for the Black and Indigenous performers of color, including Latinx artists, and not just the Edge and Monster Shows, like selected favorites in their circle of friends?
So for the Monster Show, that's completely a partner that we work with that runs that show. So I'm not aware of any of those types of issues. I don't know if Michael is, but that's definitely something we need to follow up with them about. And they completely manage that show and book and do all those things. I didn't even know any of those mechanics existed, quite honestly.
I didn't know your feelings, and I thank you for sharing them, Monty. I have seen you perform. It's amazing. I will definitely work with the Monster Show. they're, especially the people running it, are good people, and I know they're watching, and I know they're listening, and they're going to be open to editing themselves to be better and more inclusive as well. When we get through COVID, I will personally work with them to make sure that many shows are geared towards BIPOC and Indigenous people. I want this, and I will work with them, and I know that they will definitely be up for it. And I want the representation there. I want you to feel represented. I'm happy to work with Otter and the guys, the crew.
Monty?
Yes.
How are we feeling?
A little better, kind of now being able to put this out in the open. This situation in particular has happened quite some time ago, and since then I have not really felt comfortable or really welcome coming back to the space. Only because of my own personal experience. I can't speak for the voices of a lot of other people who are either Black, Indigenous, Latinx, anyone that fits under the BIPOC demographic. But me personally, it's made me feel as someone who has been performing here in the Bay Area for years that I'm not necessarily welcomed or really invited in my own backyard. So it feels good to kind of get this out in the open. But I will say, prior to this, I've seen Landra in the comments say that she kind of had no clue. This is something that should be proactively worked on, so then that way you can anticipate these things from happening. And as venue owners, I feel like it's only your duty as your venue to make sure you are aware of these things and how these shows that are being held at your venue operate, so you can hold these people accountable, whether or not they're doing something that is intentional or is not intentionally being taken into consideration, so everyone feels like they have a welcome seat at the table.
Right, exactly. Is there anything else you want to share? Are you good?
I'm good, yeah.
When I say "are you good," and so the audience knows, I don't mean "are we good" and this is great. Are we good at the moment with the response that you've heard and the steps that the bar is going to take?
I will say this: I'm a person who's come from a upbringing of your actions will speak louder than words, and until then, words can just be words. So I will be looking forward to see the proper action being taken once COVID kind of gets under control and people can come back out to these spaces that are held within our community. So
right.
I will kind of hold you to those words.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to do that.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Monty.
Thank you.
Take care now.
You too. Thanks.
Bye, love.
Money.
Bye.
All right. I've got a few questions here, and then we're working on getting Sacred into the chat. So I'm going to go to the questions that are in here. Icemax, I think that's the way it's pronounced, EISMAX on Twitch asked, will you give POC/Black events not on a Tuesday or a Wednesday? And that's one of those questions I was going to even ask you directly. So yeah. Tuesdays and Wednesday nights don't work. We need representation on main nights. And so is that something you guys can work towards?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
1000%. So I will be looking for producers and promoters as soon as I can to come and work and to take on a weekend night with me.
Awesome. And that's what we're here for too. The Bay Area Queer Nightlife Coalition. We're here to serve as mentors for you. So if you need direction and to get names of 4, 5, 10, 20 people to help you with this, please, that's what we're here for.
Thank you.
You're absolutely welcome. Eat more snacks. There are so many times I've been at the Edge for musical theater nights and requested Black musicals and was told it was not on theme for the night. Why do your bar staff, including Eric Lopez, state that the crowd at the bar is mostly and only into bearded, muscle-tatted guys and the older men that appreciate them? Ooh.
So on the musical thing, I don't know what that means. I mean, my library has thousands and thousands of clips, and if there's specifics, I would absolutely add it to the library. I mean, that's a big part of our marketing and our presence in the musicals.
Right.
I'm not quite sure what the Eric Lopez comment was.
One more time, it says, why do your bar staff, including Eric Lopez, state that the crowd at the bar is mostly and only into bearded, muscle-tatted guys and the older men that appreciate them? And I believe that goes back to the type of bar that the Edge has been thought to be. It's thought to be a men's bar.
Sure.
And
yeah, can I jump in on that one, actually?
Yep.
Because Eric Lopez was also mentioned in this, as well as the booking of Go-Go's, which I do know that he does directly. I have brought that topic up to him multiple times, and he has blocked me on all social media instead of listening, while saying that he's sorry for everything he did and he needs to listen to the community scenario. So there's a history, and it's been brought up to him as well as your management multiple times that Black people are not seen as often or regularly or often pushed to the side when it comes to go-going or what do you call it, advertisements or things like that. And it also does sort of tie into musical theaters, because musical theater is a very, very white scenario. There are the exceptions to the rules. However, it is a very white art form that a lot of white people love, and does have a history of racism. So it's sort of just this culminating issue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, in a sense, but the musical do pay our bills. So it's something that is successful. So it's something we will continue. There's a way to make that more inclusive. We're definitely open to that. But that is something that pays our bills. So we get
that programming pays your bills, and there's nothing wrong with doing that program. But what you can't use is that pays our bills to excuse racism. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm not trying. I was not trying to do that, but maybe I came across that way.
Yeah, I'm just making sure you knew.
Okay.
Let's see. Sacred's ready, but hold on. We have one more question. One more question here, and we're still on schedule, so we're good. Snacks said, Scott Mulaney not only acts like he doesn't know who I am when I come week after week, but won't play musicals I request because they aren't on theme. That was the clarification of the Black musical question. So
what was the name again? What was the name again? Huh? What was the name again, so I can capture that? Of the person?
The person who said it was Snacks.
The DJ.
Scott Mulaney.
Oh, Scott, I know. I thought the person who reported that, so we know we can follow up. Okay.
Snacks.
Okay.
Yeah. She's one of the performers. She performs regularly for Monster Show. Yeah. And I think they come a lot of times to Monster Show. So definitely very, 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 very open and broad person there.
Okay.
Our next speaker is Sacred Mitchell, and they're coming to the screen. There you are. Hi, Sacred. All right, you go ahead and have your conversation.
Oh, well, I mean, I have been a regular, or had been a regular of the Edge for quite some time. And that's admittedly because of the service that I received from BamBam in particular, as Black representation in a bar in Castro, something that's hard to come across. Myself being a bartender and for years now in many restaurants and many 5-star restaurants, and just kind of acknowledging and respecting the level of service that he would give. But at the same time, even as a patron, I was able to identify these different issues that I experienced as a patron, also being a patron there that has been called the N-word while in that bar by one of the patrons there, and noticing this level of animosity that some of the regulars or older white regulars would have there against BamBam, against other Black patrons, against patrons of color, against the few go-go dancers of color that have been there. And that shows in the amount of money that they give them, the attention that they give to them. And that's just something that I feel like as maybe managers and owners don't pay attention to. but I will say that your patrons do, especially when it comes to Black patrons. We are paying attention to that environment. And we're paying attention to the excuses that get made to cultivate that environment. And that goes to those things where you do notice other bartenders that aren't really giving that great service, but again, they're still employed. They still get regular hours. And, you know, this is me as someone that works in the industry and works in the service industry, and gives a great level of service and knows what it means to do that and knows what it means to connect with your customers. But I feel like everything that has been brought up are very valid points. And these are things that even I, as someone that doesn't work there and someone that isn't there, you know, 4 nights a week, 3 nights a week, or anything like that for an extended amount of time, this is something that even I can notice as an outsider looking in. And I think that that's something that needs to be addressed. It has needed to be addressed for some time now, because there's, even with the party, the code party, this Eric Lopez, where it's meant to or said to have represented a trans community. That party took place on May 25th of 2019. Even the marketing for that party explicitly says women and femmes. It has no wording for trans members of the community whatsoever. And that's on the Instagram page at this moment. And so, and also with the Thrifty Tuesday events, that was the Dollar Tuesdays that took place between 2017 and 2018 before Trivia Night started with Roxy on Tuesday nights to take over the Dollar Drink Nights, which I feel also were actually very popular. If someone is to, you know, if someone is to make the claim that that's where your money is coming from, or this is why you need to do this, is because that's where your money were quite busy, and they picked up and became quite an amazing people of color in this space having a good time. No problems really starting, no fights or anything like that. But, you know, being able to hear music that represents me, being able to congregate with people that represent me as well and people that look like me. And so I noticed that change that happened, and it was a stark difference from when they stopped doing the Dollar Tuesdays. And then it moved over into Roxy's Trivia Night, which, again, turned out to be a really good time, a really good event. People came together, people built teams. There were people that would come back regularly with those teams, and they would try to win the competitions. They try to win the big prizes. And it was such a nice environment to go to, and also a diverse environment to go to, where you feel represented and you feel embraced and you feel seen and acknowledged. And once that started getting busier, and I guess, again, once it started becoming too ethnic, that was also counseled. And then it was turned into Throwback Tuesdays. Yeah, Throwback Tuesdays, to where you could make requests for music. And again, still these requests were only allowed to be, I would say, what do they call it? Like, there's a particular term, white famous, I think it is, white famous music. So it's something that is approved and something that is appreciated for speaking more to pop and not to hip hop and not to R&B and not to rap. But it's something that's acceptable and palatable to the sensitivities of a white person. So, and I noticed that, you know, I noticed these changes taking place even as a patron, as someone that doesn't work there, but someone who works in the industry, and notice these things, because I don't work in the industry of Castro because I haven't been able to be hired, even though I have so many years of experience and at great places. So it's really, and I only bring this up, and I actually only take part in this because I enjoyed the Edge. It was my go-to bar. It was my neighborhood bar, although I did not live in that neighborhood. That was something that I would travel from Civic Center, from downtown, to go and be there and spend time with people where I felt represented. And I saw people that looked like me, and I saw people that addressed me with respect when there was other bartenders there that would not. So I feel like these are issues that definitely have been brought up before, even when it comes to the go-go dancers, the ones that have been African-American. I noticed after doing research that most of them don't even live within San Francisco. Like, you have to fly in or bring in Black people from San Diego, from LA, from outside of California to use as go-go dancers on a periodic basis when you have Black people in your community that have offered that could use the opportunity. And yet those aren't the people that are being used or recruited or given the opportunities. And even on the big weekends like Pride Weekend, Halloween Weekend, Dory Alley Weekend, Folsom Street Fair, where there is definitely going to be money within this establishment, those were usually the weekends there were no Black go-go dancers either, although they might be on the other weekends. Even though there were extra go-go dancers on hand with it 4 or 5 versus the 2 or 3, but on the weekends where money would be rolling in, where the crowd's going to be bigger, those were the weekends that the Black go-go dancers were not really on the books. So I know that there's an attempt, but it seems like there's also an intention of maintaining anti-Blackness. Because if you have something that is getting busy because of an event that you've started and it's starting to take off, but it's starting to take off with more people of color than it is the normal crowd and your normal patrons, then you stop that event. That's not saying you're losing money, it's saying you're turning away money because it's not the money that you want. So that's part of anti-Blackness.
I just want to thank you for your feedback. There's a lot to unpack there. So as just specifically on a couple of things, as far as a programming for Tuesday night, we struggle with that one for sure. And we actually had the $1 Tuesday since we opened up in 2011. And that went on for probably 8 years or so. And what had happened was, unfortunately, that people were getting overserved. And so you may have not realized any problems, but we got a lot of neighbor problems with public drunkenness. There was public vandalism from people that were drunk coming out of that night. There were police reports that we had to stop it. So that was not motivated by any crowd mechanics, is because we felt irresponsible pushing dollar drinks. So then we had to come up with a new formula, and we tried a number of things to try to make that night work. And while you perceive it as busy, it's not. It was never our intention that we didn't like the crowd. We just never liked the numbers, and that's why we continue to iterate on that. For the dancers, those are incredibly fair points, and it's something that I think we definitely can take back and work on for sure. Whether both going locally as well as including a mix of people on the bigger weekends as well, not just the lighter weekends. So we take that to heart. And as far as we talked about improving our programming to target and be more inclusive, that's something we've absolutely heard loud and clear through the feedback on the survey and through this evening. So we have a lot to work on.
Yeah. Sacred. I've heard what the ownership said. Do you have any more comment to that?
Well, my question would be is, because I feel like these concerns have been echoed by the 3 people that have spoken so far, at least in some way. And so then that makes me wonder, why were these concerns not taken seriously when brought up by the former employee that I feel brought these same concerns forward as an employee, as who has been there, more and more often, and brought up those concerns as well? Because then I always wonder, why does it take this sort of extent to get considered as a serious allegation or a serious situation?
I really worked with Eric. I asked him constantly, and we worked together to try to have a very inclusive group of dancers. We obviously failed, and we have more work to do. It was not good enough. It wasn't good enough by my standards now, and I apologize. I will fix that, and it won't take forever. I will fix it.
And hold on, I'm going to go to the Zoom chat. While I'm going to the Zoom chat to look to see if I have any more questions for you, Militia, do you have anything?
Yeah, so just listening to all these people speak, from Bam to the comments to Sacred, it seems like there is a just running theme of very obvious anti-Blackness. That is with the booking. That is, we have a former employee in the chat saying that when they were playing rap music on the throwback night, because we all know rap does go back decades now, they were told that that music was too angry. And I believe BamBam said the same thing. Same thing with the other commenter who said that when she requested a Black musical, that did not fit the theme. So, and I do personally know, as a former, like once or twice go there, that there is a huge problem with the booking of them. I was told specifically by the booker that every time a Black person gets on the bar, that he immediately gets racist comments. And his response was to not book me instead of talking to that customer. That echoes back to what BamBam said about that same person saying that we have to deal with those types of people. We have to just push it off and deal with the specifically quoted Karens, Chads, and Kyles. So what you're saying in that statement, or that employee is saying in that statement, that employee who holds a lot of power, is that we're just going to appease the racist versus addressing the problem. And so for me, I guess what I'm hearing is a lot of word salad, a lot of virtue signaling, and I understand, and I see how you feel that way, and I'm very sorry about that. But my question to you is, what are your actionable steps to move forward from this point and change that very overt history of anti-Blackness? As well as, we're not even getting into the female discrimination that was mentioned specifically about the Edge, as well as the transphobia that was mentioned about the Edge. What are your actionable steps to move forward and try to rectify these situations?
Well, I mean, I think this evening has been really important. So we have a lot to work on. I don't have a plan that I can present to you in the 15 minutes that or 30 minutes we've discussed, other than it's been incredibly eye-opening, incredibly sobering, incredibly humbling. So we've heard what you've had to say, and the best I can say is we have to work on it, and we have to show that we're improving. And the commitment that we're making as an ownership team is that we're going to start. And so ultimately, you're going to judge whether or not we've done okay on that or not. But we're committed to try to make this work, both on the bookings, both on the programming, both on trying to make people feel more inclusive and safe. We have to work on all those things.
Right. So you did sign the pledging to be more inclusive and more safe for all people. Yes.
We have that. I don't know where to send it to, but we have that. Yes.
Okay. And you did sign it.
They said they signed it. They just need to send it. On the bottom of that pledge, I believe it's the BAQNC olition@gmail.com.
We'll definitely email it in.
It's right at the bottom of the pledge. All you gotta do is sign it and send it right on back in. That'd be great. So, gentlemen, we're gonna wrap up your time here, but I'm gonna give you these few little action steps as Militia just asked you. Come up with a plan, set yourself some specific timeline frames, and i.e., we do understand COVID is still going on. So we're not unsympathetic to that point, but we do know that once we get to a point where right now your programming is partnering with a restaurant across the street and serving as what you can do to just push it along. I'm going to just say on that point, and this is to all the bars out there, everybody out there, not just the Edge, make sure that you are adhering to the hour to hour and a half limit. Because today was one of those days, and it wasn't the Edge. So just so you know, you're not the bar I'm talking about or the patron I'm talking about. But today I did walk out of the Castro and came back into the Castro 3 hours later, and one person was sitting at the same table. And I was like, that's not the way this is supposed to work. So FYI. Yeah. All right. Go ahead.
I was going to say, just thank you for the time. Thank you for allowing us to be here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for signing the pledge. Get that back into us. Thank you for, I know it's a courageous conversation. It's hard conversations. And we'll be following up with you in about a month to see how you guys are doing. Okay?
Forward to the actionable steps.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you,
See you
Ryan.
guys later. Bye.